right, Shalom. We want to start off by giving our praises to Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem,
Ba'ashem,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahusha, Yahusha,
Ba'ashem,
Ba'ashem,
Rakah,
Rakah,
Kadash.
Kadash.
Double honors to the apostle and elders of Great Millstone, rule well, and peace and salutations to the house of David, the elect man pushing his truth and faith and sincerity. This the brother Yatazakah.
Brother Kabar, Makwa.
And we're just gonna go into this article by Rich Lowry, obviously a Edomite demon. You know, we just gonna hit some precepts. We just gonna jump right into it. It's by the National Review. It says 5 things they don't tell you about slavery by Rich Lowry. It says it didn't begin or end in the United States. The same people most obsessed with slavery seem to have little interest in the full scope of its history. There has been an effort for decades now, although with new momentum lately, as exemplified by the New York Times 1619 project to identify the United States and its founding with slavery. To the extent that this campaign evacuates uncomfortable truths about our history and underlines the central role of African Americans in our nation, it is welcome. But it is often intended to undermine the legitimacy of America itself by effacing what makes it distinctive and good. Yes, slavery and racial prejudice were our great original sins. And that's one thing too I want to just say real quick, brothers, about Esau. He always try to include everybody else in his shit. No, nigga, your, okay? You talking about yourself. It's not R. Don't include nobody else. Like, he'll be like, your our world is fading away. No, this your world, bucko. This is your world, okay? This Esau world, you know what I'm saying? But he tried to say our world, you know. No, you're in control of the world. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. Ain't no R in this.
Or sometimes yeah, the human race is destroying the planet. Whoa, hold on, bucko. What do you mean the human race is destroying the planet? Your rat ass is destroying the fucking planet, bucko.
God.
Don't put us in that shit.
God. That's right. That's how he do. You know. He tried to he tried to, and this what his article about, him trying to divert the attention away from him trying to hide his shame, you know what I'm saying, like, and blame everybody else, you know, just like a kid, man, you know. It says yes, slavery and racial prejudice were our great original sins. It would have been better if we had, like the British, been leaders against the slave trade and for abolition. The representation of slaveholders in Congress and the rise of King Cotton forestalled this. And you know, I don't know about no British being no leaders against slavery, man. That's I don't know nothing about that right there. You know, maybe you brothers do.
I mean, shit, they come from the same cloth.
That's what I'm saying. So,
You know?
all Edomites.
Same toes.
Con. That's right. It says, but we didn't invent slavery even in its race-based form. Slavery didn't make us unique, which is obvious if we consider its history in a little broader context. Critics of the American founding don't like to do this because it weakens their case and quickly brings them up against politically inconvenient facts that they prefer to pass over in silence. Let's dwell then on a few things they don't tell us about slavery. None of these are secrets or are hard to find, but they are usually left out or minimized since they don't involve self-criticism, and worse, they entail a critical look at societies or cultures that the left tends to favor vis-a-vis the West. None of what follows is meant to excuse the practice of slavery in the United States or its longevity, nor is it to deny that the Atlantic slave trade was one of history's great enormities, subjecting millions to mistreatment so horrifying that it is hard to fathom. But if we are to understand the history of slavery, it's important to know what happened before 1619 and what happened elsewhere besides America. Number one, through much of human history, slavery was ambiguous and unquestioned. And I looked that word ambiguous up. I'm gonna look it up again. It's ambiguous. It's present, appearing, or found everywhere, omnipresent, everywhere, all over, universal, global, prevalent, predominant, extensive. So pretty much they trying to say that slavery was a normal thing, even when they brought the children of Israel into captivity. So it's not like they created nothing new with when they during the Atlantic slave trade period. It wasn't. It was going on all throughout the world. So why should this be such a surprise? It says,
I got a quick one.
okay, con.
It's book of Nahum, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not."
Break it down,
So
bro.
that's synonymous, with this place, man. America, it's just full of lies, man. Just trying to really kind of be in control of the whole scenario, for lack of a better word, just the whole storyline of the history of the atrocities that they did to our people. You know what I'm saying? But the verse brings out, it says, "Woe to the bloody city." So we know that word "woe" means destruction. So that's what's coming to this place, man.
Yep. And this definitely is the bloody city, America. All right. You see, they said it was millions. It was millions of slaves who were subjected to death. Here in America, man. It says
Millions ain't the word, bro. It's probably the billions.
Con.
Who the hell knows?
Con. Well, if you read, we can get it, but you read down in chapter Nahum, the 3rd chapter, you read down a little bit more. It said they stumbled over the corpses, man. That's how many dead bodies and much blood out here in America, man.
I could get that if you want.
Con. I'll go back to it. You'll read down to 5, Baba Kasha, or 6.
So Nahum chapter 3 verse 2, it says, "The noise of a whip and the noise of the rattling of the wheels and of the prancing horses and the jumping chariots." Verse 3, "The horsemen lifted up both the bright sword and the glittering spear, and there is a multitude of slain and a great number of carcasses, and there is none in of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses."
Right, so that's here in America, man. All right, like the Ox said, man, it's probably billions of Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians that's been put to death here in America, man. It said it's no end to their corpses out here, man. All right, that's spirit. So there's you can't even really put a number on how many Israelites been put to death out here in America, man. Shit, we probably down here where I'm at in Conyers, Stone Mountain, Georgia, with a brother out there in College Park. These were heavy safe havens for the Ku Klux Klan and Edomites, man. We probably stepping on dead bodies right now, walking over. They done just poured concrete over dead remains of who? Israelites, man.
Just a side note for that, verse 3 where it says, "The horsemen lifted up both the bright sword and glittering spear." That's talking about the ICBMs that's going to be hitting this place.
Con, bro. That's right.
And continuing verse 4, it says, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts.
This is an example of they witchcraft right here. This article, man, trying to say that slavery was ambiguous, you know, and they didn't create nothing nothing new with slavery. You know, it wasn't they didn't create racial prejudice or you know the origins of slavery, man. You know, that's witchcraft, man. You know, we ain't talking about what you did. We ain't talking about what happened before you. We talking about what you did, man. And that's what America do, man. They always try to shed the light off of them, you know, and put it on someone else, man. They try to hide their shame, man, you know, and include others in their shit. No, this about you, man.
Verse 5, it says, behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame.
And that's what's happening right now. That's why they making articles like this, because they trying to hide their shame. They trying to divert the attention that's being brought to them. They trying to hide the shame, you know, because Yahweh Shemashah, he bringing it to the light. He bringing all their atrocities to the light. Well, this spirit, it said, I will pour my spirit upon all flesh. This word is going out, man. All right, like it's saying Psalms, I think it's 147. If I'm not mistaken, or 149, when they say, let the high praises of the saints be in the mouth of the two-edged sword, you know, which we know that scriptures go twofold, because you got the men of the Lord throughout the four corners of the earth reading out the scriptures, letting you know about all the wickedness of this devil, man. You know, letting you bringing his shame to the light, you know. So his nakedness is being shown to the nations, man.
Not. And you said finish up at 6, right?
Yeah, con.
It says, and I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock.
And that's what's going on right now. Everybody looking at Esau as like, bro, you a vile, sick motherfucker, man. All right, you was doing some raw shit, man. Well, look at your history with slavery, man. People, that's the number one thing people look back to you know, identify you as the wicked, man. You know, some of the practices that you was upholding during slavery, man. You want to talk about other people who had slaves, other nations who had slaves, other histories and time periods in history where slavery was going on. Ain't nobody got down like you, Esau. Or you was cutting people nutsacks off, man. Or you was punching people, stumping people teeth out their mouth and using them as dentures, man. You know, ain't nobody got down like you. You vowed, man. You know, you a gazing stock. Niggas looking at you like, hold on. Oh, yeah. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. You know. Or, you know, like the Willie Lynch letter, that book, when it was talking about the two horses, they tie they get the horses and tie them to the slave's legs, you know, and the two horses run apart and split the slave in half, man.
That's fucking wild.
One,
Nobody does shit like that.
bro, nobody was doing no shit like that, bro. You in the whole league of your own, bro. You know, that's you being made vile, man. And that gazing scout, niggas looking at you like, hold on, bro, you ain't right, bro. You ain't not right. That was it, bro.
Raping a man in front of his family for sick kicks. Just that alone, you were sick, man. You real sick. Just all that alone.
Time, bro.
You gotta bring up other charges. That alone is grounds for destruction.
Right. Right. That's right, that's right. But his list, that's just the tip of the iceberg with this devil, though. This is the tip of the iceberg, man. It says, back in the article, it says, number one, through much of human history, slavery was ambiguous and unquestioned. Slavery wasn't the exception in human history. It was the norm, the perennial institution, as historian Seymour Drescher calls it, was an accepted feature of the ancient world from ancient Egypt to Greece to Rome and of traditional societies. The Greeks, according to the compelling David Brian Davis' book Inhuman Bondage, The Rise and Fall of Slavery in the New World, came to see slave labor as absolutely central to their entire economy and way of life and deployed it in a wide range of occupations. Roman slavery wasn't race based but was brutal all the same. See the fate of slave gladiators among many other atrocities. And who was in slavery during the Roman time period, man? During the time of you sick ass Romans, man. All right. It says, it's like Roman slavery wasn't race based, but was brutal all the same. Seeing the fate of slave gladiators among many other atrocities, and even if it wasn't, so to speak, race based, look how you Edomites was getting down on your own people, man, during the time of the Romans, man. Which we know the mass majority of those who was in slavery during the time of the Romans was Israelites, man. It says in the post-Roman world, the Byzantines, the Vikings, and Central Asian societies all embraced slavery in various forms. And that's talking about when Jake was in rulership. But mind you, you're not gonna find nothing about in the history of the Vikings and the Byzantine Empire where niggas was sticking their meat in another man's rectum, man. That Jake wasn't getting down like that out here, man. It says again, this wasn't remarkable. Consider, for instance, Ethiopia. Stuart Gordon writes in his book of Shackles of Iron, Slavery Beyond the Atlantic, that its first legal code, dating from the mid-13th century, recognized slaves as central to the economy and defined the acquisition and holding of slaves as the natural order of things. In the 16th century, Ethiopia was a full slave society, even taking tribute from some provinces in the form of slavery. Slavery knew no bounds of color or creed. During one period from 1500 to 1700, there were more white Europe. Would say
that's a fucking lie.
Con, bro, con. No, look what they about to go right now though. It says slavery knew no bounds of color or creed. During one period from 1500 to 1700, there were more white European slaves held captive on the Barbary coast than slaves sent from the West Africa to the Atlantic world, according to Gordon.
Lie. Lie.
That's crazy. More white European slaves, bro. That don't even sound right, boy.
And if that was true, King David, King James was doing that shit, and it was within his right, because you bastards are slaves anyway. Y'all natural born slaves.
Kind, bro. Kind. Yeah, shit. I mean, at least they gave you the caves in the mountains and just sent you on about your way, man. Shit. You was slaves, but you was just you wasn't subjected to the sick perverseness that you devils was on, man. You was like I said, you was just in your natural state, man. Gave you a little cave to live in. You put you in your servitude role that you was made to be in, man. It says all this history wasn't incidental to what eventually arose in the Atlantic world. Davis notes there was a genuine continuity of slave trading and slave holding from ancient Greece to Rome, and from the late Roman Empire to the Byzantine and Arab worlds. From the medieval shipment of slaves from the Balkans, the Black Sea, and Caucasia to Muslim and Christian Mediterranean markets, and from there to the beginnings in the 15th century of an African slave trade to Portugal and Spain, and then to the Atlantic islands and the New World. And slavery was widespread throughout the New World, and an imaginary hemispheric traveler Bro, I think they talking about Christopher Columbus.
I don't know. It broke up with mine. You can read that part again.
Con. It says, and slavery was widespread throughout the New World, and an imaginary hemispheric traveler, David Davis writes. It says, would have seen black slaves in every colony from Canada and New England all the way to Spanish Peru and Chile. And that's what's going on, you idiots. All right. A lot of the Southern Kingdom is in South America, man. All right. A lot of the Northern Kingdom is here in America, man. You know, you devils, man. You know, talking about you would have seen black slaves in every colony, Canada, New England, way south to Spanish Peru and Chile. It is slaves in all those colonies. What are you talking about? It says number 2. Y'all brothers got some precepts?
I got a quick one.
Con.
Psalms 58 and 3. It says, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies.
Yeah.
You know, that's basically what they're doing, man. Just, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just really just, now they trying to create some type of false narrative as if you can't do our own, this is the information age, man. We could look into the history and see, you know, slavery was going on in these parts of the world. Like, what is y'all talking about?
Right. You read 4, Baba Kashab?
In verse 4 it says, their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that word poison up. Cause this is what this is. This is poison, man. You know? They trying to disenchant you, man. Psalms 50.
Like poison. Yeah.
You said it's a song?
Yeah, like poison.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I heard that one.
Now you heard? You talking the old school song? Yeah, kind.
Oh, Bobby Brown.
Kind. Is that what it is? That's what it was?
Yeah, Bobby Brown, Poison.
So. Poison.
Yeah, that's Bobby Brown. Kind.
That's Esau ass. Got me out of my mind.
Yeah. Kind, bro. Yeah, that word poison is kama, and it says heat, rage, hot displeasure, indignation, anger, wrath, poison, heat, venom, burning anger. Yeah, that's displeasure, hot displeasure, man. Yeah, that's what his words is, man. His philosophies, his doctrines, his witchcraft, man. This shit is poison, man. It's hot displeasure. It fuels anger, man. You know, it makes fury, man. You know, that's what this devil all about. You know, and it says they are like the deaf adder that stoppeth the ear. Well, this is a prime example of that, man. All right, fuck what happened all to you slaves. What's going on? Fuck what happened all to you slaves out here. You know what I'm saying? Look what's going on all throughout the world. Salakia, brothers. But yeah, this is an example of them, you know, stopping the ear up, man. They ain't trying to hear nothing, man. They like, man, slavery was going on with everybody in out the world all throughout history, man. This ain't nothing new. But who was the number one people that was in captivity all throughout history, man? It was the Israelites, man. All right, Egyptian captivity, Medo-Persian captivity. Con, bro. Con. What that was, Daniel 9?
Con.
Let me grab that real quick. This,
bro, they been passing us around like a whore or something, bro. Everybody was getting a turn.
Con, bro. This Daniel chapter 9 verse 12. And he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us by bringing upon us a great evil, for under the whole heaven have not been done as have been done upon Jerusalem. You got him, Qua?
Yeah, that's good. They put that in the scripts because niggas always accuse, well, we all went in slavery. Everybody was slaves at one point in time. Matter of fact, there's Africans that are slaves right now to this day. I'm like, nigga, you got dicks in cages, nigga. I don't even know, down in Texas, I don't even know any fucking Africans engaged. What the fuck are you talking about? And nobody else can claim they got raped, not even those fake ass Jews. They never got raped. They never got fed to alligators. They got those little nice ass toxic chambers that they so called got. I would have loved to get that, opposed to getting hung on trees, dragged by horses until you die. They got creative with this. Ooh, a gas chamber. How nice. You getting gas to death. Oh no, what a nightmare. Y'all some sick fucks.
And as a side note, they all got some type of reparations for all that, all that so-called atrocities that they endured. But what do we get? We ain't get nothing. So, based on
they
that.
They gave us Obama. That's what they said. Oh. No, seriously, the congressman said that. We would get the reparations, but y'all got Obama already.
Got Obama, the hammer. Yeah, low, hey, man. Low one of us could, have something on the hard, nice hard yoke of iron on his neck.
God.
Get the race.
God, bro.
Obama. Fuck Obama. That's on the reparations.
Ain't do nothing but legalize. Ain't do nothing but legalize homosexuality.
Yeah.
People.
Come back. It's like probably a little bit more on this article, bros. This 2, it says the East African slave trade lasted until the 20th century. The United States ended slavery too late again. Britain is a better model. But let's not forget how long the slave trade ended in 1808 and the United States lasted elsewhere. Gordon discusses the East, which we know slavery didn't end in fucking 1808, man. All right, in the United States, man. All right, you motherfucking devils, man. All right, like I say, we still in slavery to this day. We are yet this day in our. Hold on, let me get there real quick, bro. Let me get there real quick. Talking about slavery ended in 1808. You out your motherfucking mind. Like I said, you still got you got Northerners right now in concentration camps. You talking about damn slavery ended, man. This Baruch chapter 3, verse 7. Verse 8. It says, "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power Yahweh." Yeah, so we're yet this day in our captivity, man, as a reproach, man. All right, being subject to payments, man. All right, well, but paying taxes, that's being a damn slave. That's a part of slavery, man. All right, being subject to you devils, that's a part of slavery, man. Being called black and African Americans, that's a part of slavery, man. All right, being taken away from our tradition and our history, that's a part of slavery, man. We are yet this day in our captivity, man. Ain't nothing 1808 ain't when slavery stopped. Slavery ain't never stopped.
And just to add, like you said, slavery ain't never stopped. But just according to Esau's paperwork, in Mississippi, they didn't, abolish slavery until 1995. So, according to their, 13th Amendment and all that, they didn't even, finish that paperwork until, about 20 years ago?
Wow. Wow.
Come on, man.
Yeah, man. You devils, boy. It says, Gordon discusses the East African slave trade, also called the Arab slave trade, throughout the vast Indian Ocean region. He writes, slave trade and ownership were considered completely moral and legal, regardless of the religion of the slaver or the buyer. More than 1 million slaves were taken from East Africa in the 1800s. Despite British attempts at suppressing it, this trade continued into the 20th century. According to Gordon, perhaps the last large-scale movement of East African slaves to the Middle East was in the 1920s. It says, Relatedly, the Muslim world was a vast empire of slavery and enslaved countless black Africans. Number 3, Islam was a great conveyor belt of slavery. Boy, long before the establishment of African slavery in the Americas, James Walvin writes in A Short History of Slavery, Islamic societies were characterized by the widespread and generally unchallenged use of slavery. Indeed, slavery was commonplace throughout Arabia well before the rise of Islam. But as Islam spread between the 8th and 15th centuries, and especially to black Africa, it extended and confirmed the commonplace use of slavery and slave trading. According to Walvin, Muslim slavers transported enslaved Africans across vast distances via overland routes long before the European pioneers in the Americas began to consider the use of American slaves as laborers in the American settlements. The routes across the Sahara, he adds, survived from the 7th to the 20th century, and millions of Africans were marched along them from the homelands to the slave markets to the north. This history is relevant to the nature of slavery in the Atlantic world. At first, slavery in the Muslim world wasn't race-based, but that changed, Davis writes. The Arabs and other Muslim converts were the first people to make use of literally millions of blacks from sub-Saharan Africa and to begin associating black Africans with the lowest forms of bondage. And we know this already, man. Well, a lot of our people, they don't know this, you know what I'm saying? Like, that video you had seen me up when it had those two, so to speak, Muslim scholars, and they was talking about how black is dogs and, is evil and all that shit, So yeah, we know how you Ishmaelites feel about Jake, man. All right, but in Psalms 83, it tells us how these Ishmael and all these nations took a crafty council together to oppress Jake. This talking about the sub-Saharan slave trade of many things, man. We know you Ishmaelites and you Hamites put us in slavery, had part of our slavery. We know y'all sold us to the Edomites, to keep us down. We know this already. It says, it may well be, he continues, that racial stereotypes were transmitted along with black slavery itself, to say nothing of the algebra and knowledge of the ancient Greek classics, as Christians treated and fought with Muslims for the first Islamic challenges to the Byzantine Empire in the 7th and 8th centuries through the era of the Crusades. Certainly, while slavery was in the eclipse in the rest of Europe, it had a new vitality on the Muslim-occupied Iberian Peninsula, where Muslims and Christians both engaged in the practice. By the 15th century, historian James Sweet notes many Iberian Christians had internalized the racist attitudes of the Muslims and were applying them to the increasing flow of African slaves to their part of the world. He adds, Iberian racism was necessary precondition for the system of human bondage that would develop in the Americans during the 16th century and beyond. You fucking devils, man. What Genesis the 3rd chapter tell you about enmity between our seed, man? All right. This was from the beginning. What you talking about from some damn Iberian Christians and some Muslims, man? All right. You see this witchcraft that Esau be on, man? It says, one would think that there would be more attention paid to the Muslim world's contribution to race-based slavery, but since it doesn't offer any opportunity for Western self-reproach, it's mostly ignored. Wow. It's crazy, bro.
Esau saying, well, the Arabs did it too, so why you on theirs?
Wow, man. Yeah, this is the last one right here. It says the Atlantic slave trade would have been impossible without African cooperation, which we just went into that. We know Ham had part in this. It says slavery wasn't a European imposition on West Africa. It was already a common practice before the European slavers showed up to subject African captives to the hideous Atlantic passage and bondage in the New World. So it don't matter your ass still showed up to do it. What are you talking about?
Bro, he a rat. See, he proven he's a rat. He dry snitching on everybody.
Yup. God.
He a whole rat, bro.
Yeah, that's
The Arabs did it, the Africans did it. He's a whole rat.
Boy.
He's a singer, bro. He's definitely a singer. They got him right under the interrogation. He's like, well, he did it with me. He did it with me. Esau's a fucking rat.
Yeah. He tried to do anything to escape his judgment. Or, he like shit. Or if he can't escape his judgment, he got to bring somebody down with him. I'm not going by myself, boy. Fuck that.
You will picture that.
It says, according to John Thornton, slavery was widespread in Atlantic Africa because slaves were the only form of private revenue producing property recognized in African law. Europeans did not capture millions of slaves on their own. The slavers were confined to the coast. They weren't capable of enslaving masses of Africans. And even when they attempted it, they risked disrupting the entire system and retribution from the Africans. In the interior, slaves were captured in battles and raids and marched to the coast in unspeakable conditions. They were then sold to the Europeans for liquor, textiles, tobacco, and other goods. Davis notes the rise of predatory states such as Futa Jalon, Dahomey, Asante, Kasanje, and the Lunda Empire, which found it financially profitable to wage war on neighbors and sell prisoners to the Portuguese, Dutch, English, French, Danes, or Americans. The system of West African enslavement kept running even when the Europeans stopped coming, flooding various regions with non-exportable slaves, as Davis puts it. The slave population in West Africa would come to exceed that of the New World. Oh yes, one more. My fault. It says Brazil took the lion's share of the slaves from the Atlantic slave trade. It says any historical accounting of the Atlantic slave trade has to judge Brazil harshly. 95% of the slaves transported across the Atlantic went to the place south of the present-day United States, which Brazil alone taking about 40%. Black slaves were already about 10% of Lisbon's population in 1550, and Brazil had about 1 million slaves by 1790. Bro, you Spaniards, y'all was, bro, the Spaniards got control of the province of Brazil, man. All right, you fucking you Spaniard Edomites, man. You Edomite. Well, prime example of that right now is you Edomites are trying to set up your own coup and your own leaders in Brazil and Venezuela right now, man. Just letting you know that Jake don't run South America. So-called Brazilians don't run Brazil. You Edomites run Brazil. What are you talking about, man? It says, even though a relatively small percent of African slaves went to colonial America, the population in the colonies in the United States grew until there were 4 million slaves by the time of Civil War. Brazil never had this natural increase because the life expectancy of slaves there was so low. Life on Brazil's sugar plantations was brutal and regimented. Yeah, and I wonder why you fucking devils was trying to was beating Jake to damn death to get you some sugar cane, man. All right. It says beginning
Sugar cane, Brazil wood,
tobacco.
oil.
It says beginning in the 1960s, Davis writes, historians have demolished the myths that Brazilian slavery was benign or humane. and that Brazil was relatively free from racism. The record shows he writes extreme forms of racial prejudice coupled with the view that slaves were instruments of production. It says, even when the Atlantic slave trade was mostly illegal on the way out and the beat went on, Brazil and Cuba received most of the more than 2 million slaves transported between 1820 and 1880. So what that mean? That's still you devils was responsible behind it. Was responsible for it all. You know. That was it, bro. Y'all got some precepts?
I don't got one.
You got one, Kabar?
Shit. I had a few while you was reading.
Okay.
Definitely was thinking about Obadiah.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Con.
Um,
Let's get that Obadiah.
let me see. Shit, I guess I could start at 3.
Con. Go ahead. Go.
Book of Obadiah, verse 3, it says, "The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?"
Go ahead. You got it, bro.
God. So that's the nature of these Edomites, man. You know, and then, I mean, who else dwells in the clefts of the rock? You know, the term alone, Caucasian, that means a cave dweller. You know, someone who dwells in the mountains. You know, so that shows you who the Edomite is, man. And it says, "Pride of thine heart hath deceived thee." You know, the scriptures say pride go before destruction, man. They got all this pride, you know, thinking that they just gonna escape judgment. You know, want to put the blame on, you know, just anyone else but them. You know. Verse 4 says, "Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence I will bring thee down, saith the Lord Yahweh." That's basically what's coming to these Edomites, man.
Yep.
Shit, not just them. Hey, but all the nations. You sort of dropped it down on all y'all niggas. You must have 15. I think it's 15 or 16.
God, I was thinking that.
Verse 5, it says, "If these came to thee as robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes?" Verse 6, it says, "How are things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up?"
That's what's
Verse
happening.
7, it says, "All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in them."
Yep, and that's going to what you were just saying, McQuad. These nations that was confederate with you, you know what I'm saying, to help you, go proceed forth with your slave, with the transatlantic slave trade, you know. You ratting them out. Now y'all beefing together, you know. So now these nations, they finna come up against you. You know what I'm saying? Oh, so you want to come up against us? You know what I'm saying? You want to act like you one the main conspirator behind this? Okay, well we just gonna knock your ass off.
That's right. Verse 8, it says, "Shall I not in that day, said the Lord Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau?"
Yeah, Esau don't know
Verse
what the
9.
hell going on.
That's right. Verse 9, "And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter." Yeah, man. That's what's coming to these Edomites, man. Verse 10, it says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever."
Woo! Read that one more time, Baba Kasha.
Verse 10, it says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever."
Yep, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. That's what's going on right now, man. All right, Esau is ashamed. He's trying to dilute the Western's world history, man. He's trying to just completely wipe this out. He's trying to do anything he can to take the attention off of his history of what his violence towards his brother Jacob, man. You know. But you're gonna be cut off forever, man. You can't stop it, man. This is already written that you was gonna try to do this, and Yahweh Shem Yahshua was gonna cut your ass off.
Verse 11. It says, "In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was one of them."
Yeah, we're talking about the sub-Saharan slave trade when you was talking about them East African slave settlers being transported to West African borders. You know, when you was talking about damn Muslims and Arabian Christians, man. You know, when you was talking about them creating. Oh, Salaki, this I think the brother McQuarrie got tapped out. Hold on 1 second, brothers. Yeah, you there, bro? Yeah, Salakia. Read that one more time, Baba Kashak Kabar.
Verse 11 says, "In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was one of them."
Yeah, nigga. So you was talking about the damn sub-Saharan slave trade, Arabian Christians, all right, Muslims with their their invention of racial prejudice. You know, you was talking about how Hamites had other, so to speak, Africans, which we know they was Israelites in slavery and bondage. You know, nigga, you was part of that. You was part of that. You cast lots too, nigga. You not excluded from there. You talking about the Europeans could have done it on their own. You know, the Europeans, even if they tried, they was gonna mess up the African profit system. No, nigga, you are included, bro. You are included. You are not out of this. You know.
That's right. Verse 12, it says, "But thou shouldest not have looked on the other day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress."
That's what the fuck you did. That's what you did. You know, you seen the Israelites in bondage. You bring your little stinky, leprous ass over there trying to get your piece. All right, like, oh shit, hey, don't forget about me. Let me get my piece on them niggas too, man. All right, let me put them in bondage. Hey, that's my chief enemy. I gotta have that right there, man. All right, let me get a piece of that destruction. You know,
That's right.
God ain't dealing with them niggas no more. You know, fuck them niggas. They mines.
Like when that 50 Cent song, I've been waiting to murder these I've been waiting to murder these clowns.
God.
Verse 13, it says, "Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity." Verse 14, it says, "Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those that did escape, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress."
That's what you did, man. All right, anybody who escaped anywhere, you heard about it, they had a slave trade going on from Portugal to Spain to Dutch to French, man. All right, so it wasn't about just the Western, cause you Britons, you British Edomites try to separate yourselves, which we know that America came out of Britain, you know, but you damn British Edomites try to separate yourselves. You damn y'all had a slave trade going on too, from the Africas, from East Africa and West Africa to Spain, Portugal, the Dutch and the French, man. All right, and France, man. All right. So what like, come on, bro. You stood at all the pathways that Jake could take to try to escape from this bondage that you had took crafty counsel with these nations to do, man. All right, you went above and beyond to put Jake in subjection. It wasn't like no shit. You just stumbled across slaves. No, you made it your duty to put Jake in bondage and put him in hardcore bondage at that, and really utterly destroy them, man. That's what you tried to do. That's what you tried to do.
Verse 15, it says, "For the day of the Lord Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head."
Yeah, and all these nations going into slavery, like the Ox said. Like you Ishmaelites, y'all going into slavery. You Hamites, y'all going into slavery. You Elamites, you going into slavery. You Moabites, all right. All you nations, you Cushites, and you Edomites. Every single one of you who took it upon yourselves to subjugate the nation of Israel. Your ass going into slavery, man. All right. Well, that's your reward returning upon your own head, man. All right, y'all wanted to touch the apple of the Heavenly Father's eye. Well, the Heavenly Father gonna touch you niggas,
Right.
Time, bro. You had some more, Kabar?
No, that was a point on that. We could read the whole thing, but
No, I was saying some more precepts.
It had me think about Revelation 13:9.
Bring it up.
That out real quick.
I'll read it for you. This Revelation chapter 13 verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
That's right. So, like Akeem was saying, man, all these nations who were confederate against the saints, hey, man, you can't escape the judgment that's coming to you nations, man, especially you Edomites. All you nations, man, who led our people into captivity, y'all gotta go into captivity. Y'all can't escape it, man.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, point blank period. It said that's the patience and the faith of the saints, and we know the just they should live by their faith, man. All right, and our faith, what we live by, what we faithful to is you Edomites and all you heathen nations getting what you deserve, man, which is slavery, man, for putting us in slavery, man. I don't care about who did it, how it happened, what happened then and there. No, you niggas going into slavery. How about that? All right, and you Edomites, you gonna be cut off forever. All right. For your part in this, I got this. I got like two of them. You got one, McCoy? All right, I got this right here. You brothers can break it down. This Joel chapter 3 verse 1. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, I will bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for an harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink." And that's sick, man. That's what you Edomites do. A Pizzagate. Pizzagate. You got fucking underworld, underground world where these niggas are actually selling boys and girls, man. For selling a boy for a harlot, man. All right, that's sick, man. That's the type of shit you Edomites was doing, having sex with little boys, man. And little girls, man. It says, verse 4, "Yeah, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and the coast of all of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because ye have taken my silver and my gold and have carried into your temples and my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them up out of the place where whether ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children. Salakia. Verse 8, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabaeans and to a people far off, for the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah have spoken it. Woo! Yeah, so, yeah, pretty much, man. Hey, it say that the children of Judah and Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, talking about Tyre and Zidon and Palestine, talking about you Ishmaelites and you Hamites, man. All right, talking about you Ishmaelites, you Hamites, y'all have sold the nation of Israel to you Grecians, talking about you Edomites, man. All right, that you may remove them far from our border, talking about when you sold the Israelites into Ireland, Portugal, Spain, all right, France, all right, in Western America, man. You know, in the Western Hemisphere, man, removing them far from their border, and then you claim they land, man. All right, so the Heavenly Father said He gonna sell you nations. It's gonna be a slave trade in the kingdom of heaven, man. All right, we gonna have a slave trade. We're gonna be selling you fucking Edomites off, man. All right, to other nations so they can get our work done, man. All right, we're gonna have a slave trade too. You know, we're gonna sell your daughters and your children, man. All right. Yup. I got one more, bros. Yeah, we can wrap it up. Unless y'all got something. This Isaiah chapter 47, verse 6. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. We say up. You said something, bro?
No, you got it wrong.
Oh, Salakia. This is Isaiah chapter 47, verse 6. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. And thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. You got it, bro.
You got it.
So yeah, so it say the Heavenly Father was wroth with his people, man. He was angry with his people. All right, so it say he polluted his inheritance, you know, by allowing us to be taken into captivity by you nations. All right, he said he's given us into thine hand, and you didn't show us no mercy, man. Upon the ancient, thou very heavily laid thy yoke, man. All right, so you was going ham on little boys, little girls, on old women, old men. All right, you ain't show no mercy out here, man. So what's gonna happen? All right, the Heavenly Father's gonna destroy your ass, man. All right, He's gonna recompense you that same thing upon your own head, man. We ain't gonna show your children no mercy. We ain't gonna show these old ladies and old men no mercy. On all you heathen nations, all you going into slavery, all you gonna be destroyed, man. All right. So that was it, man. Unless you brothers got anything to add.
Yeah, you might, man. They can't escape it, man. No matter how they try to replay the storyline, like they guilty and they gonna have to go through it, man. They gotta go through that judgment. The tab has to be paid, man. There's no way around it.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
That was it.
Okay, Khan. Well, with that, we want to give our praises to Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to the apostle and elders of Great Millstone, rule well. And peace and salutations to the house of David. Shalom to the elect.
Shalom. Shalom.